welcome in, folks, and we want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving as we want to make sure everyone is having a safe and if anyone's doing any traveling or anything of that nature. But welcome into the show. We appreciate everyone tuning in. As you can see, it says, "Come on in, have a seat." A special edition of the Sports Buffet right here on the Four Star Sports Media Network. Like I said, we appreciate everyone tuning in. It's gonna be a fun show. Let's go ahead and jump into it, man. As we start a little. The fact that they are honoring John Madden today all across the NFL. Truly, truly, truly think this is a great thing for the NFL to do because, I mean, let's just think about it. I mean, Madden video game, I think it started in what, 92, 93, something of that nature. Um, but John Madden, absolute legend. They're honoring all the teams today are wearing the little patch, or the coaches have the cap with the Madden little logo that's got the headset kind of similar to this one. But when you look across the league today, 3 games on the slate. We saw the Lions eke one out against the Chicago Bears today, 23-20. We are currently, the Cowboys are up 13-10 with about 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. So we're approaching halftime of the Cowboys and Giants game as they lead by 3. And then tonight on Peacock, we get at 7:20 p.m. we get the Dolphins and Packers, as we will see those two teams battle tonight, as well as the Packers, as we talked about yesterday on the show, are a 2 or 3.5 point favorite. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. If you'd like to comment, please do. We will for sure get your comment up on screen, as well as you know, talk a little ball with you. Thanksgiving. I'm full. I'm extremely full. Um, I'm sure you guys are as well. But I'm glad that you guys saved a little bit of room for a little bit of sports. And also, when it comes to sports, anything like that, we here at Four Star Sports Media have a way to save you money. And with that, all you got to do is go to SeatGeek. Once you do, type in the promo code that you see there on the screen. For those of you listening, it's Four Star Sports Media, all spelled out in one. That's our SeatGeek promo code. Once you do, head over to SeatGeek. It is the worldwide leader in seat, not just for sports, but concerts, plays, professional wrestling, boxing, numerous things you can buy on SeatGeek. But when you do, find any ticket $50 or more, enter that promo code that you see there on your screen, or for those of you listening, enter promo code 4-Star Sports Media. When you do, you will save $20 off your first ticket purchase. If you don't believe me, folks, try it out. I know for a fact it works, as well as others who have entered the code. So for anyone needing tickets for NFL, college, whatever it may be, that's an easy way to do it right there, folks. Very, very, very easy way to do it. So we start the show. We're talking NFL, and we take a little road trip. Like I said, Lions got a big win today, 23-20 over the Chicago Bears. And when you look at it, let's just look at Caleb Williams, 20 of 39 for 223 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, no interceptions. When you look at the rushing, they had 15 rushes for 78 yards. Leading receiver on the day was DJ Moore for the Chicago Bears, leading receptions and yards. He had 8 catches for 97 yards, an average of 12.1 yards a catch, had 1 touchdown, and a total of 16 targets on the day. And then when you look at it on the Lions side of things, Jared Goff, 21 of 34 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. And we would also see Penei Sewell attempt to throw a pass. I mean, he didn't, but total on the day, 211 yards passing for Detroit. Rushing wise, 33 rushes for 194 yards on the day. David Montgomery would lead the day with 21 carries for 88 yards, just slightly above Jahmyr Gibbs by 1 yard, by the way. 9 rushes on the day for Jahmyr Gibbs, 87 yards on the ground. Amar St. Brown is just so much fun to watch. Him, as well as David Montgomery in the passing game. That's something else I want to bring up here in just a minute about this Detroit team. But St. Brown, 5 catches for 73 yards, long of 29, was targeted 7 total times on the day. And then, like I said, David Montgomery, 3 catches, 36 yards, was targeted 3 times and made 3 catches. But when you look at David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs as well, the way that they're able to utilize Williams too, but the way that they're able to utilize all of their running backs, all of their weapons in numerous ways. I mean, this team's now 11-1 for the Detroit Lions. So you got to give this team a lot of credit. Honestly, you really, really do. I so far they've been untouchable. I mean, really, if you want to be honest about it, so far they've been untouchable. Now, when you look at the Giants, they have not been untouchable. Daniel Jones was benched, as we know. We would see Drew Lock get the start today for the Giants. And a minute 50 to go, second quarter. But when you look at Drew Lock right now, 5 of 10, 30 yards, did just throw an interception on a screen pass for a pick 6 to put Dallas up 13-10. But no rushing game at all for these guys. 14 rushes for 71 yards. Drew Lock leads the day with 2 rushes of 28 yards. Devin Singletary has second with 7 rushes for 23 yards on the day. And then you look at it on the Cowboys side of things, Cooper Rush, 12 of 21 for 116. Cowboys have 13 rushes for 59 yards. Rico Dowdle got the start. 8 rushes for 50 yards on the day. No touchdowns rushing at all for Dallas. Interesting, very, very interesting stuff around the league. As these two teams in particular, they're almost kind of battling to see who's going to be one of the worst in the league to get the number one or a top pick in the upcoming NFL draft. You know, we've heard rumblings, and we're going to talk about college football here in just a minute, but we've heard rumblings that Deion may pull a Eli Manning back in the day, if anyone happens to remember what happened there. But with Shador and with Travis and players such as that. But it's going to be very interesting to see. I think this NFL season, of course, Thanksgiving is very synonymous with NFL football. They're honoring John Madden. John Madden had I specifically remember as a kid, he had the little turkey, he drew the turkey, he split it down the middle, and boom, bam, boom. You know, he goes over here, bam. You know, it's just Madden was great. And as I said at the onset, talking about NFL, I really, really am glad that they're honoring him. And just, you know, when it comes to memories about John Madden, I mean, or about the NFL on Thanksgiving Day, I mean, it's John Madden. The Madden Mobile, he always had the big turkey. You know, that's when they started doing the big turkey, as we saw the Lions eat devour the big turkey in the field. But, you know, stuff like that. That was all brought on by John Madden, Pat Summerall, those guys throughout the ages. I mean, let's just think back to how many years Madden did it on air. It's legendary stuff. But then you go and you incorporate those type of things into the video games that had his name on it, that had his voice, his image, as well as Pat Summerall back in the day. I mean, that's things that you honestly can't touch. You really honestly can't touch. Um, and it's. I mean, let's just be honest. There's not going to be anybody else to do it like John Madden. I don't think personally. I don't think there'll be anyone else to do it like John Madden has thus far. Appreciate everyone watching and listening. If you enjoy what you're watching and you enjoy what you see, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. As we are getting ready to jump over and take a little road trip across college football, as it's a jam-packed weekend. As it's rivalry weekend, we see teams all across the country battling it out in what many times games have a lot of implications. One of those being tonight, which we're going to get into here momentarily. But when you look at it, you got tonight, Memphis, Tulane. Both teams come in 9-2 on the season. 6:30 ESPN. Tulane's a 13.5-point favorite. We talked about this yesterday as well on the show with John Sturdivant. Boise State kicks off tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. 10-1 on the season against Oregon State, who comes in at 5-6. Boise State looking to go 11-1 on the season, and currently they're ranked number 11. If you look at the college football playoff rankings, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, Boise may be getting a bye, folks. And then furthermore, and we're going to talk about it really in depth, but could we possibly see a two-loss American team jump a Big 12 team? I think we could. We're gonna talk about it here in a minute. But speaking of Big 12, Colorado 8-3 going against Oklahoma State. Colorado comes in as a 16-point favorite in that game. Georgia Tech. This is a game that I think is going to be very interesting when you look around the country. Yes, Georgia is a 19.5-point favorite. Yes, Georgia comes in 9-2. But yes, this is also the game that is literally titled Clean Old-Fashioned Hate, because these two teams hate each other. That's just all there is to it. These two teams cannot stand each other. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Another two teams, and by the way, that game is tomorrow. But another two teams that can't stand each other kicks off Saturday, which is another jam-packed day of college football, as number 2 Ohio State takes on a struggling 6-5 Michigan team. 11 a.m. Could we see Michigan maybe mess some things up? I mean, is that possible? Could we see that? I think we could. I think it's very possible. And I think when you are a team like Michigan, I think when you're a team like, I think when you're a team like Ohio State, I think when you're a team like Tennessee, I think when you're a team, I mean, numerous teams. Tulane, for that matter. Boise State. All these teams can be beat. All these teams. Georgia, I talked about it yesterday on the show. Could we see Georgia be knocked off by Georgia Tech? That would shake things up. Can USC completely ruin North Carolina's season? I'm sorry, Notre Dame's season at home? Can Cal play spoiler against an SMU football team? Syracuse, 8-3 on the year. Can they play spoiler? And then, obviously, the big one takes to take place. There's two, but one of the big ones takes place in Kyle Field, and that's Texas A&M. And Texas is number 3. Texas comes in with a record of 10-1, and Texas A&M comes in ranked number 20, record of 8-3 on the season. But now, I just mentioned, could we possibly see maybe a 2-loss American team jump a 3-loss Big 12 team? Let's look at the American. Okay, so you've got Army. It's already locked. It's Army and Tulane for the conference championship. Now, yes, Tulane does have a big time matchup against Memphis. We'll talk about that here momentarily. But let's say Tulane wins the American. Let's say for example, Colorado wins the Big 12. Could we see Tulane jump them and get into that bye spot? And then have Colorado go be the 5 seed, which is not really a bad slot, but you're still the 5. Because I mean, when you look at it honestly, from a marketing perspective, don't you want Colorado in that slot? Either way, you're going to make money. But then the question becomes, and the question's already been raised, is it about TV dollars? Is it about matchups? Or is it about really the top, looking at the playoff parameters? Is the committee filling the playoffs the way it should be filled? Now, we talked about this last week. We talked about it this week. What is very funny at times is you hear a lot of fans around the country that begged for expansion, by the way. But now that expansion's here, is well, these teams haven't played anybody. So there should be more from this conference. There should be more from that conference. There's, from our conference, whoever that may be, whether that's SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, whatever. But the whole point of expansion was to include everyone else. Now, I've overheard people make statements like, well, the SEC just needs to break off and have their own conference. They do. It's called the regular season. Have their own playoff. They do. It's the regular season. Once conference play starts, that's what that is. That makes no sense, by the way, to me. But people calling it the invitational, things of that nature. Teams like Army, teams like Boise State, teams like Tulane. Really, you look at a Memphis team, 9-2. They knock off Tulane tonight. I know they're not making the playoff, but they should at least be ranked higher. This playoff, the expansion is great, but as fans around the nation, you can't have your cake and eat it too, if that makes any sense. You put it in the hands of the committee. You didn't want it in the hands of the computer with the BCS. You want it in the hands of people. But now you put it in the hands of the committee, and that's not. I mean, when you look around the country, this is going to be a lot of fun to watch as we come down the stretch, as they say in horse racing. Because when you look at these teams, they're as it says right there on the bottom of the screen, a lot can shake up in this college football playoff. A lot can shake up. And in reality, it can actually start shaking up tonight. Because you've got a football game taking place in the Big Easy in New Orleans. Both teams are 9-2 right now. Tulane is undefeated in conference play. But this is going to be a big time football game for both teams, not just one. Because it's not just big for them. It's a big time game for the American Conference. As you've got Memphis and you've got Tulane, and it's the only college football game on TV tonight. If you're a college football fan, if you're a fan of college football, and really when you look around the games today, and I'm not saying there's been bad games, but when you look around the games today, this may end up being the best game of them all. I mean, let's just be honest. This is going to be a high-powered game, and we're going to get into it in detail. But if you're the American Athletic Conference, and I understand Memphis a lot, I don't want to lump all Memphis fans together. I understand a large portion of Memphis fans do not like this conference, the American. I understand that. But what I don't understand is the constant, and I do mean constant, trashing of the conference every single week. And I'm going to get into a little more of that here in just a minute. But Memphis has got a big time road trip today. They're already there, obviously. So let's get into a little bit more of this game, and I want to start right there, what I just talked about. Memphis and Tulane. When you look at these two programs recently, especially when you look at the quote New Year's Six games, these two teams have in a way kind of been a bell cow or a shining light on the conference. You saw Tulane knock off USC. Now, yes, I understand Memphis did not beat Penn State in the 2019 Cotton Bowl. I understand. I also understand that based on the 2019 team, as John and I talked about yesterday, there's a large portion of Memphis fans that expect 10 wins a year no matter what. No matter what. 10, 11. As a matter of fact, I had a guy tell me the other day on social media, direct quote, if it's not a college football playoff or New Year's Six bowl, I don't care. It's interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. Because I can remember not all that long ago that if you mentioned a bowl game, people laughed at you. And when you look at Memphis, as we get into it here, speaking of bowl games, following the win over North Texas, Memphis was then bowl eligible for the 11th consecutive season. That stretch is the longest of any Power Four team in the country. And this year, it would only take the Memphis Tigers 7 games to reach bowl eligibility, matching the fastest to do it in 2017 and 2019 as the fastest ever. But yet, people call the man silver fraud. I don't get it. But anyway, serious history. Let's get into it. Right now, Memphis currently leads the series 24-15-1. Record in New Orleans has not been too kind to the Tigers. They need to work a little voodoo tonight. As Tulane leads the series 12-9-1 in games played in New Orleans, and in the last meeting, Tulane would get the win 31-21 last season. As we talked about yesterday, Memphis will be playing a game on Thanksgiving Day for the 23rd time in program history. It will be the first time since 1983, as they also played prior to that. The most recent game was 1961. So they played 1914 through 1919, and they played 1921 through 1924 or 25. They took a 2-year break, then 27 through 29. They played on Thanksgiving. They played again in 1933. They played again in 1948. And they did again from 56 through 59. They took a 1-year gap. They played in 61. Then they played again in 83. And then now they're playing again in 2024. So a little bit of history there for the Tigers on Turkey Day. As you know, Memphis is one of 9 teams in FBS with 10 or more consecutive bowl games as they join Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Now, Oklahoma State will fall off that list this year. You may ask, who are the Green Wave? Well, when the Tigers and the Green Wave meet, it's going to be the 41st time in the series. As we talked about, Memphis does lead the overall series. But the 18th ranked Tulane Green Wave enter tonight's game 9-2, 7-0 in conference play. They clinched the AAC title game with a 35-0 win over Navy. And they rank quite highly in many statistical categories. And as a matter of fact, they lead the country with 6 defensive touchdowns on the season. They're number 2 in the country in third down conversion percentage with .526, time of possession with 34 minutes and 55 seconds, and tied for number 3 in turnover margin at +13. They have the number 4 scoring offense in the country, as we talked about yesterday. More importantly, this team currently has a 17 consecutive American Athletic Conference games in the regular season. That is the nation's longest conference streak. Tulane's 17 game dates back to 2022. That was from November 17th of 2022 against the game against SMU to now. And it's tied with UCF, who did it from 2017 through 2019, and Cincinnati, who did it from 20 to 22 for the league's all-time consecutive conference victories. Since 2022, Tulane has now won 22 conference games. That's 3 more than the program's total in its first 8 seasons in the American Athletic Conference. So people questioned me at the beginning of the year when I said that I thought this team was going to be good. And I said at the beginning of the year when we went over to the Memphis schedule, this game was the game. And here we are. Since the beginning of the 2016 season, Tulane is 51-7 when leading at the half and 52-9 when leading at the end of the third quarter. Since the beginning of the 2022 season, they are 27-3 when they score first. And additionally, the program has won its last 27 games when leading at the end of the third quarter. Its last defeat came in the 2021 finale at Memphis, 33-28. Almost 3 years to the date. Can Memphis do it again? There's going to be some keys for Memphis tonight to get the win. Number one, defensively, if you're Jordan Hankins and you're this Tigers defense, who really has performed pretty well throughout the year, you've got to face a quite balanced offense. To further that point, Tulane is one of 8 schools nationally with an average of at least 200 yards on the ground and at least that many through the air. Tulane averages 227 yards a game rushing, and averages 207 passing, including them. It's Boise State with 252, 227, Tennessee, Kansas, New Mexico, Kansas State, and Texas A&M. This is something that's going to have to be controlled if you're Memphis. You're going to have to control a very balanced offense. More importantly, fact number 2, key number 2. You've got to control the trenches. Get nasty up front. Because if you can do that, if you're Memphis and you can get nasty up front, you can disrupt what has been a really, really good Tulane run defense. You've got to get nasty, and then you've got to have Mario Anderson and the rest of the running backs, and Brandon Thomas is back, Greg DeWozaway is back as well. You've got to have this stable of running backs run well, but you've got to be nasty in the trenches. Tulane's run defense is stingy, to say the least. They've outrushed the opposition in 29 of its last 37 games, 23 of its last 27. In recent contests, Tulane's 27-2. They've lost 2 games in 2020. They lost a game in 2022 against Southern Miss and a game in 2023 against Ole Miss. This season, when they outrushed the opponent, they're 9-0. So key number 2 for this Memphis team, get nasty. If you're on this is an offensive key. Be tenacious in the trenches and control the ball. Run the ball with power. Run behind your pads and run with purpose and passion. If Mario Anderson and the rest of these guys can do that, I think it bodes well for Memphis. I really do. I mean, think about it. Think back to Navy. Yes, it was a loss for Memphis, but you saw Mario Anderson and Brandon Thomas both rush for over 100 yards in the same game. First time that's happened since 2019 versus SMU. Yes, the game day game when Gainwell and Watkins both did it. Anderson would also tie a program record in a 52-44 win over North Texas with 4 rushing touchdowns. He had 210 yards on the day, 22 rushes for 183 on the ground. We're going to need that. Memphis is going to need to see that type of performance again tonight. And that's key 2 and 3. Be tenacious up front, followed by run with passion, run with purpose, run with precision. Number 4, you've got to let Seth Hennigan be Seth Hennigan. If he needs to roll out a little bit, roll him out. They're going to continue to score, folks. Is Memphis going to score 20 points in the game? Yes. I feel very certain of that. Hennigan was 23 of 34 against UAB for 299 through the air. He's only 9 yards away from being the only quarterback in Memphis history to throw for 3,000 yards each season. And people trash him, which makes 0 sense. And then number 5, control the environment. It's a place that Memphis, as we talked about, 12 and 9. Advantage Tulane in games played in New Orleans. I know Memphis fans traveled well. But Memphis as a football team and as a staff, they need to control this environment. If that means come out and you make a statement early, then you come out and you make a statement early. But it also means if you have a chance to put this team away, you put this team away. As I talked about, you're the only game on TV here in college football. And they gave you the Egg Bowl slot for the weekend. You can't let this opportunity slip by if you're Memphis. You can't do it. When you look at these two teams, Memphis is averaging about 35 points a game. Tulane's averaging about 40. Memphis is averaging 167 on the ground. Tulane's, as we talked about, averaging 227 and 207 through the air for Tulane. Memphis is averaging 273 through the air. Time of possession is very close. Tulane 34.55. Tulane comes in 33 minutes and 66 seconds. Third down conversions is pretty close. Red zone scores is very close. This game is going to be very close. I talked about it. We talked about it months ago. If you've been paying attention to our coverage, we've been talking about this game and this series for quite some time. John Summerall was an incredible hire. John talked about it yesterday. We talked about the hire when it happened. People laughed and they scoffed when we talked about how good this team could be. Running back Mekhi Hayes ranks 8th nationally with 1,291 yards on the ground. 17 total touchdowns, is 8th in FBS. John Summerall's got an incredible quarterback, a freshman, Darian Mensah, who ranks nationally 6th with 169 passing efficiency. Tulane is 32-7 in the last 39 games over the last 2+ seasons. So 32 victories to start the rankings, ranked 4th nationally behind Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon. We gave 5 keys, right? Control a very balanced offense if you're Memphis defensively. On the offense for Memphis, you've got to control the trenches, be tenacious in the trenches, and then run the ball with power, purpose, and precision. And then offensively, if you're Memphis, you've got to let Seth Hennigan be Seth Hennigan. I trust Tim Cramsey, incredible all season. Memphis has had a bye week. Tulane's had a bye week too. But Memphis has had a bye week. I'm very interested to see how Cramsey and Jordan Hankins come out and attack and how this chess match happens in a game that starts in about 45 minutes. But let Seth be Seth. You do that. And then I think key number 5, which is control the environment. I think key number 5 becomes a lot more attainable if you can do 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think 5 is still attainable even if you don't do all 4. But you've got to control this environment. Tulane's number 18 in the country, 7-0 in conference, in the hunt for the college football playoff. Memphis needs to go in there tonight and work some magic. If they can possibly ruin a college playoff berth or hopes for the Green Wave, as well as win 10 games for back-to-back seasons, the first time in program history. And who does it? None other than Ryan Silverfield, the one that people want gone. Is it going to be easy? No. We talked about it. We've been talking about this game all season. We talked about it in preseason. This game is the game that should have been circled on the calendar. If you're any Memphis fan, or if you're a Memphis supporter, or if you're a Memphis player, and I'm sure the head coach, Ryan Silverfield, had this game circled. This is it. This is the game. Thanksgiving Day. Everyone's ate. Everyone's full. Everyone's settled. Maybe got some a little ice cream. Got you a little pecan pie with a little ice cream on top. It's time to settle in, folks, because the best football game, what I think is going to be the best football game of the night, is getting ready to take place. Memphis, Tulane. Can Memphis work a little voodoo? Who knows? But I do know this. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That is sure. All right, folks. What am I thankful for? Well, there's numerous things I'm thankful for. Thankful for my wife, thankful for my family, thankful for my health, thankful for my job, right? I mean, all the things that, you would generally hear someone say, they're thankful for. But more than that, I'm thankful for you guys. The thousands of people that visit our website a day, the thousands of people that visit all the social media accounts that we have throughout the day, the thousands of people that listen to the podcast, or the people that send me a message going, hey, you guys have great stuff. When this whole thing started years ago, the vision was ultimately what you see now. A network of shows, podcasts, however you want to look at it. But in addition to that, articles, photography, and more. This is the ultimate vision. Now, this vision is going to grow, right? It's what we've done this whole time. But this is kind of the breadcrumbs of what the ultimate vision has always been. But to watch this thing grow and to see it grow before not just my eyes, but you guys as the fans' eyes as well, it's been very, very humbling to see. It's been very fun to watch. Excuse me. But then you look at the people along the way. The group that we have now on camera is extremely well. John Sturdivant does an incredible job with Inside the Lines. Blake Hogue and his group of guys do an incredible job with Hog's Happy Hour. The photos you see right over here, right there. in our articles, in our graphics, things of that nature. Madison Pinke, Kayla Houle doing incredible work there in Memphis on the ground. Is their own sidelines, in press boxes, and more around the city. And really, at the end of the day, I work for them. Everyone that's involved here, it's me servicing them so that we as a brand can better service you guys. I feel that in the 3 or 4 years that we've been doing this, we've gone from, and we're still considered, I guess, a startup, but we've gone from really just a Facebook Live to credible, reliable, professional sports coverage. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful for that. And I think you, as our fans, are thankful for that as well. Now, as you can see, we're obviously growing. We've incorporated the NHL now, MLB, NBA, and more. And we're growing as far as people. We brought in Hogs Media for more recruiting. Those guys do great work. Hogs Happy Hour is growing as well. Their numbers are going through the roof. So this thing is continually getting better and bigger and better and bigger and better and bigger. And that, when it comes to this, to 4-Star Sports Media, that is what I'm thankful for. When it comes to Wes Pruitt, outside of being behind the microphone, thankful for my family, thankful for my wife, thankful for my health. I'm thankful for me. I know that I don't want this to sound conceited when I say that, but we have to be proud of ourselves. Because if we're not, yes, others are proud of us, but if we're not proud of ourselves first, then our work shows that. So we have to take pride in everything we do. So, final thoughts tonight. I'm very thankful for you guys, but there's much to be thankful for in life. There's far too much to be thankful for there to be as much negativity as we see. We try to keep it as positive as possible here within reason. If there's things that need to be called out, we will. But we don't push narratives here at 4-Star Sports Media. We bring you campus coverage, is what we try to do for the Memphis Tigers and others. But we're not narrative pushers. We're not truthers. We're just bringing you constant, consistent, professional, reliable sports coverage. Like tonight. It's Thanksgiving night. College football kicks off in about a half hour. You guys have been tuning in with us all night. We appreciate it. For everybody listening to this show after we get through with the live, we appreciate the podcast listeners as well. And if you enjoy what you see, guys, feel free to share it. Feel free to share it. Let your friends know about us. We will be glad to have them on as well. And once again, if you need tickets, and not just tickets, folks, Christmas is coming up. Christmas is right around the corner. If you need tickets for anything, head over to SeatGeek right now. When you do, create you an account, write the password down, all that good stuff. Type in that promo code you see right there at the bottom of the screen, 4-Star Sports Media. For those of you listening, it's 4-Star Sports Media. When you do, that'll save you $20 off your first ticket purchase. If you don't believe us, you can go try it. We promise you it will work. We appreciate everyone watching and listening again. Hope everyone had a very happy, safe, and joyous Thanksgiving. And we appreciate you guys watching and listening. And as always, folks, stay classy.